Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Florida Aviation Network. My name is Lori Bradner, and we are broadcasting live and in the clear from the Central Florida Aerospace Academy. We are here celebrating 50 years, it doesn't seem possible, but 50 years of Sun and Fun. And we are so excited to be here broadcasting once again. And of course, as I always say, I've got the best job in the world. I get to talk to the most wonderful, phenomenal people, and I am so honored. Susan Mallett, thank you for joining us and being here just to talk to me today. It is so nice to see you again.
You too.
It's wonderful. And Susan, you are here absolutely. I know that Civil Air Patrol is absolutely near and dear to your heart. You've been involved a long time. You're here to talk with us a little bit about Civil Air Patrol and all they do. But before we do that, I have to ask you, we've been celebrating 50 years. I know you've been coming a long time. What are some of the changes? Tell me a little bit about where it started for you and what do you think about where we are today?
Well, it started for me probably in 2010, coming for the Teacher Day with Barbara Walters Phillips and her team.
I had her on today. She's awesome.
She is amazing.
She's amazing.
But starting back then, and she was doing it much longer than that time, but there were tents that we set up and had our sessions in. So we've had this the sessions move into the classrooms, into other areas, and it's really been phenomenal to see the support for the teacher program and the educational leaders who have come in from organizations around the country to support that workshop. Yeah. The teachers leaving with hands-on and minds-on activities they can take back to their classrooms or their youth organizations, because many of them are informal educators. Yeah. So it's been great to meet the people from around the country that have been presenters with those educational lessons, and with the teachers who have taken that and gone back to the classroom and become a part of our organization as well through that. So it's been a good thing.
And can I tell you, that has been, I'm so thankful to Barbara, because I was one of those teachers that went through those, and we certainly want to invite our educators out. You know, Sun and Fun has something for everyone, and I was one of those teachers that left with a hands-on, minds-on science to take back to the students. One of the things I want to talk to you a little bit, tell me a little bit about Civil Air Patrol. And I know that there's a lot of different facets about it, and I'll let you take it if you want to start with all of the flight opportunities, and then we can move into what they have for students and then what they do for educators and aviators. But tell us a little bit about Civil Air Patrol.
I can do that.
I know you can. We need all day for this.
I have been an educator member since 1986, and proudly so. I've never become a uniformed member because I love my position as an aerospace education member, and I'll explain those categories to you. But this organization is very dear to my heart. I feel I'm a volunteer, although I'm a paid staff since 2006. But I will tell you this, Civil Air Patrol is the auxiliary of the United States Air Force, and we're an all-volunteer organization. I happen to get paid, as I said, working at the national headquarters at Maxwell Air Force Base in Montgomery, Alabama. But there are volunteers all across this nation, in squadrons across the nation, uniformed much like the military, with adult members and cadet members ages 12 and above, and then the educator members who support and supplement what they're doing. But our organization is known for its little Cessna aircraft. We have the largest fleet of Cessna aircraft doing search and rescue missions, humanitarian missions, all types of missions across America as tasked by the United States Air Force, and with local or state emergency management agencies as well. So we're working in disaster times. During COVID, we were transporting medical supplies and such when other larger aircraft could not do that. Our volunteers are, Minutemen, if you will. You give them a minute, and they're prepared, they're trained, they're ready to go and support as they need to be in the communities. But that's the main thing people know about Civil Air Patrol, is our aircraft and what we do for communities across the nation. And the good thing about that is that people who are retired military or are retiring from the airline industry or any other aviation industry and want to stay involved in flying can join a CAP squadron and continue flying. And if they aren't a pilot and they just like aviation or want to do a community service, Civil Air Patrol is a very good organization for that. And people from all walks of life are our adult members. the good thing about those adult members is they mentor the younger people, those cadets, young people ages 12 and above. And we love to see those adults mentoring the young people. Many cadets that we've had through the years, we are meeting them now as adults, and they are very accomplished adults.
Yeah.
And they credit Civil Air Patrol as the way that they got their foundation in life.
May I interrupt you for
Please
a minute?
do.
Because I just want to credit the Civil Air Patrol. The minute you said that, there were two that came to my mind. One specifically is now Captain Timothy Pollock, who was here but was involved with Civil Air Patrol, and I know just went through the program, was one of our cadets here, and phenomenal. So like you said, these are people that are now, they're grown, they're not children anymore, and what's the wonderful thing is they're working in aviation, and they're sharing the passion that aviators and adults shared with them. They're now sharing it with the younger generation themselves.
It is true. And it is amazing to me. I go to a lot of air shows, obviously, if I'm working in aviation education. But I do meet a lot of people who have said, I got my start there. Nicole Malachowski, the first female Thunderbird pilot, was a CAP cadet. Eric Bowe, astronaut, was. Other astronauts as well. The first African-American female fighter pilot in our midst. Dr. Cyan Proctor, who was the Inspiration pilot for SpaceX.
Yes.
Inspiration 4 pilot. It was and is a CAP member, adult member now, but she started as a cadet. And this past weekend at Maxwell Air Force Base, we had one of our first air shows. Our first air show since before COVID.
Right.
And one of my former teachers flew with the Blue Angels as the hometown hero, the key influencer. She helped us create many of our educator programs. Awesome. But her pilot started as a Civil Air Patrol cadet. And then we had a cadet for a day, a pilot for a day, young student, and went out and met the F-16 demo team. The commander and the lead pilot was a cadet from the time he was 12 until he went to college. Yep. And we interviewed him, and he's now giving back as a mentor from afar, but one of those people who are still giving back. So they're from all walks of life, and I love all of the opportunities that are there for the cadets.
Now I have to ask you, I don't think I've ever asked you this question. Did your involvement with CAP start from going to one of the teacher programs? And how have you, I've never asked you this, how did you progress to work at National? I'm interested.
Well, in 1986, I was asked by the Department of Aeronautics of Alabama to pilot a little aviation program. I knew nothing about it at all. I was a first grade reading teacher. But I accepted the challenge, as we teachers do.
We say yes.
And from that one year forward, people in my community came to me to support me. There was not a lot of elementary aviation programs back in those days.
Right.
But I met the people from Civil Air Patrol's national headquarters. They supported what I was doing and asked me to help them share the message with other people. So since then, I've been trying to educate other teachers about those programs. At that same time, I joined what used to be the Air Force Association, is now the Air and Space Forces Association, both times AFA.
Okay.
But they work hand in hand with Civil Air Patrol, and we've been doing programs together forever. And then when I became a principal, my entire school became an aviation-themed school, and became nationally recognized for that. The test scores for the students just went through the ceiling.
They soared.
They soared.
Pun intended.
Yes, they did.
I had to do it, Susan. I had to do it.
And I do attribute that to having, relative and some relative relevance to the subject of the teachers were teaching, to the aviation industry and such, but also the mentors that came in from Civil Air Patrol and other areas of the community. I attribute those mentors and the programs in helping our young people see a purpose for themselves, learning about the past, seeing what's going on currently in the aviation industry, and then preparing for the future. So in 2006, I was asked to come and work at Civil Air Patrol and replicate what I did at my school for teachers around the country. And therefore, we started an ACE program, Aerospace Connections and Education. Yeah. We're in its 16th year, I believe, this year.
Okay.
This year we hit over 1,000 students this one year, so we've gotten over 800,000 students in that program. And then in a few years, we got funding. I was just at a meeting, and someone said, we like what Civil Air Patrol does. Could you use some extra money to start a new program?
Yes.
Of course, we say yes.
Yes, of course.
And our STEM kit program evolved. I started with only 5 STEM kits, and we now have over 20 free STEM kits in the areas of aviation, space, and cyber. And of course, we focus on aviation a lot.
Right.
With flight simulators, cross-country navigation, remote control aircraft, small UAS, and such.
Right.
So the programs are growing each and every year, and I feel like I've grown through that too.
Right.
As an employee, I still feel like I have a volunteer's heart. Because when I'm not traveling for work, I'm volunteering to go and do a presentation for our local squadron, because they're doing that all the time too. So it's my life.
Now let me ask you a question, because I know that we have a lot of educators that are watching that have students and they're in the schools. If I'm a teacher and I want to get my minds on science and get a hold of some of these materials so that we can promote it, how do they go about that, Susan? How do they go about getting this, and where do they turn? Because I know teachers are always looking for new resources, new material, and like you said, something, number one, to ignite our passion as educators, but also to ignite our students' passion and to show them the relevancy of the science, the math, the engineering that they're learning. So where do they get it? How do they get their hands on it?
I hate to back up, but I want to back up and tell you one thing before I lead to that. How about that?
You go ahead, no worries.
I want to tell you about the cadet program, because those young people in our cadet squadrons, those young people wear uniforms much like they're adults, and they progress in rank and do special activities and get scholarships. They can even earn their private pilot certificate through the Civil Air Patrol's funding and the Air Force, as well as the Ray Foundation, which is great here.
Yep.
But we have all those opportunities to explore aerospace careers for our cadets through the mentorship and through special activities in the summer and such. All of our programs that we've developed for aerospace education for our educator members are also given to our squadrons. But this special membership category for teachers, for formal or informal teachers, kindergarten through 12th grade, is called the Aerospace Education Membership.
Okay.
And that membership is a one-time $35 membership fee. And then there's free annual renewal each year, as long as the teacher or informal educator wants to be a member.
Okay.
Now, these are not just for classroom teachers, they're for homeschool teachers, organizations,
Excellent.
EAA chapters, other organizational groups. So they join, and once they join, everything is free to them, courtesy of the United States Air Force, who funds our programs. So we take teachers on teacher orientation program flights over their school and their community. They can live stream down to their students or talk to them from above.
That's awesome.
It's all really good, and they're sort of connecting the dots between those STEM concepts they're teaching and the aviation principles. So it's a good way for them to bring that together. And then the pilot comes to the classroom and follows up with talking to the students. But we also have, of course, the STEM kits and the ACE program and other programs as well.
Okay.
And once you join, we have a member portal, and everything is free for them to order. But if anyone is interested in any of our youth, adult, or teacher programs, you just go to gocivilairpatrol.com. If you just Google Civil Air Patrol, it'll come up to that.
Okay.
And it'll give you all the directions there. And their emails, we have contact information all throughout that website as well. Well, one thing that's been exciting is that I've talked about...
Well, there's a lot of things that you're doing that are exciting. So there's not just one, but go ahead.
One thing that I think is so exciting is that we are now combining our operations team with all the aircraft and the emergency services, our cadet programs organization, and our aerospace education program into special missions. One we have just for cadets, and that is a high altitude balloon challenge. So only our cadets are involved, and they learn about the scientific method. We work through our aerospace program. The cadets are involved, but also the airplanes are involved in the search and rescue missions when we do the payload drops and such in our launches. So that's all good. But one exciting event was not just for our CAP cadets, but for classrooms across the nation, was the solar eclipse. Civil Air Patrol.
That just happened.
It happened just.
Yes, April 8th.
Civil Air Patrol partnered with NASA Globe, and we had special educational products and activities for the teachers and the schools and the communities and the cadets, whether they were in the path of totality or not. And those things worked together, and they were tracking data points that NASA needed, such as the temperature level and such like that.
Right.
But we had over 50,000 young people across the nation in our CAP squadrons and in classrooms across America who were collecting those data points for us. So we were
obviously, we're at the Central Florida Aerospace Academy, and we are broadcasting live, as you just heard. So what's next? What's coming up next? Is there something? There's always something on your horizon.
Well, there always is, and I think these two programs I just mentioned are our newest ones that we're really trying to get off the ground and continue. People think with the solar eclipse, it's one and done. We've got programs that are going to continue with NASA through that. So we're always looking for innovative programs to connect the community with what we're doing because people do not know about that program, those programs. The cadet program to me is the most important one, and we are getting an increase in funding, not just from the Air Force, but from the Ray Foundation to get more of our cadets to earn their wings. And we partner also with the Air Force ROTC and JROTC. They also have a wings program and flight academies and such. But those cadets need a way to fly before and after they get their wings. So they're connecting with us at Civil Air Patrol. We're flying their cadets before, in their orientation flights beforehand. But after they earn their wings, they are able to come back and fly with us and earn their hours because we don't want these young people to earn those wings and not have a place to do it. So our organization is really trying hard to connect with all the other organizations, collaborating in every way possible so that we can all fill a niche that someone else can't fill. I'll tell you one last thing, and I've talked too much about how things have changed since I started in 1986 as a green aviation educator. And that is, there were organizations all across the country who were trying to get into aviation education and had been, but they were very competitive with each other. What I'm finding now, and a group of our organizations are meeting right here on these grounds this week. Organizations are wanting to connect and collaborate and help each other out because we have one goal. That is to get our young people to know about the aviation industry and what's out there for them. Not everyone can be the pilot, so there are so many other areas in aviation and aerospace that they can connect. So the collaboration, to me, has been the greatest stride that we've made in all the years I've been involved. And it is very empowering and it's very encouraging for all of us, I think, to have that collaboration going on. So,
and we know as educators, that's the key, that we're stronger together.
We're
stronger when we collaborate, and many heads are better than one.
That's right.
And I absolutely love it. Now, I know that Civil Air Patrol is here, so anyone that comes to Sun and Fun, and we have cadets here, they're in uniform.
They are.
So they will be able to see the Civil Air Patrol cadets here. And let me ask you just one last thing. I know we're getting ready to wrap up. Susan, let's say we had someone like myself or my age or an educator. So even if they were not in education, but they've heard you, they've watched our program, maybe they're not an educator, they're not a teacher, but they're like, wow, that's a great organization, I'd like to volunteer. Is it open to them as well?
It is.
Okay.
The only thing is, one thing, if you work with youth in any shape, form, or fashion, you can become an aerospace education member and be a part.
Okay.
Those members are not a member of a squadron because they have not gone through our cadet protection training.
Good.
That's important for our
Safety
organization that we do that.
Right.
So anyone who wants to volunteer on an intermittent level, they can certainly reach out to their closest squadron. And when you go to our main page, Civil Air Patrol's page, there's a place that says find your local squadron. Just enter your zip code and the closest squadrons and the contact information will come up, and you can reach out to those to either visit and see if a young person wants to join, or to ask if you can support in some way. So or join and be a part of the adult membership.
Absolutely,
as well.
I say join.
Yes,
Susan,
that's
it is always a delight to have you here.
Thank you so
you
much.
You never change. You're extraordinary. Thank you for your energy, and just thank you for all that you do, not only for the young people, but for promoting just aviation education. My name is Lori Bradner. I'm with the Florida Aviation Network. We are broadcasting, as you heard, live and in the clear from the Central Florida Aerospace Academy. We are here celebrating 50 years of Sun and Fun. If you haven't come to see us, please be sure. We will be here throughout the weekend. You won't want to miss it. Once again, I'm Lori Bradner, Florida Aviation Network. We look forward to seeing you here.